Well, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
It's good to see you, man. It's been a holiday season of all sorts of things.
I haven't seen you since last year. I gotta put this away, or I'm gonna be looking at myself the entire time. So, yeah, haven't seen you since last year.
Man, good old last year. The great thing though is now that I see you here, it's really apparent that I do have 20/20 vision.
Well, I don't, because I have astigmatism.
You have astigmatism. Oh,
I just said ladies and gentlemisms, so that
sounds like a disease.
Yeah, that's how 2020 is going so far. Yeah, we're back. Again, we took a little bit of a unpurposeful break, more or less.
It was a nice hiatus.
It was
just the holidays happened.
I had the time to talk about what we wanted to do with Jake was Jay in 2020. We've got several other videos that we recorded in December.
Yeah.
That we're gonna put out. But if for reason some say, hey, if we don't see you, Happy New Year in the middle of that, just know they were recorded in December 2019.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, we're here.
And we have a movie to discuss.
Yes, we do. We do. It is the last movie for the next 10 years of the Skywalker saga, because somebody is going to pick it up and make a episode 10, 11, and 12. I just know it. But
I'm sure.
Anyway, yeah, we're here to talk about Rise of Skywalker. Joseph, I guess we'll keep this non-spoilery.
Start off with
for the first couple of minutes. But what'd you think? How'd you like it?
Impressions. I enjoyed it. It was give off the impressions here. I definitely enjoyed it. It was, and I think I said this to you when we left the theater. It was all over the place, and I mean that in a good way and in a bad way.
It was a mile a minute.
It was it is literal light speed the entire time. Every scene to scene to scene. It was going.
Yeah. So when you get in the theater, it's like a.
Yeah, you're strapping in. You're going on the ride.
Yeah, you're all in, and it does not.
It doesn't stop.
It sure doesn't stop, and that helps it. I will say.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. And so I think it was bad because it made it feel.
Yeah.
Ooh, hit it.
Hey, that'll spike the audio.
It made it feel like it had no time to breathe, and made it feel like there was sequences or ideas that were rushed that I would have liked to see be a more fleshed out central part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it also meant that you got to, from a story perspective, hit a lot of things and bring in a lot of things. I think one of it's interestingly enough, one of its strengths and downsides was JJ is very good at making sure to bring in nostalgia and that kind of thing. And I think
he is very good in a good way. A very probably the best director at fan service.
Yes.
That there is between his work on the Star Trek movies, the newer Star Trek movies. That are now a decade old, actually.
Are you serious?
The first one came out in 2009. I love the new Star Trek movies.
Yeah, no, I never watched the last couple, but I remember I watched the first two. They were really good.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. So he's really good at. He knows his audience, and he might know his audience better than maybe George Lucas himself, who created Star Wars. I mean, he really learns who he's making a movie for. Not just a studio, but who's gonna watch it, who it's gonna tailor to.
He also, what's interesting to me was seeing the similarities and differences from 7 and 9.
Yes, very much.
One of the similarities was that strong nostalgic, the strength of his nostalgia is that he does a very good job of bringing that in and be like, oh, that's, it's Star Wars. He did a good job of making certain aspects and things feel very much like Star Wars.
Absolutely.
The downside was it can feel forced at times, and it can feel kind of checklisting, especially because this movie was so fast.
Yeah. There
were times where it was kind of like, okay, he had a list of things he wanted to just check off.
Yeah, and it's weird. I feel like still this movie was hurt. This whole entire trilogy was hurt by 8. And
that's something I do want to
the reason we'll get into that because we're still going through how we liked it right now. But Yeah, as you said, we'll get into that later, but it was hurt by 8, and I think that and this is the way I feel about it, but for what he was given, which Trilogy started off, he made episode 7. Yes, it was a lot like 4, but history does tend to repeat itself.
And that was a very interesting thing to me, talking about nostalgia. JJ has a very interesting habit when it comes to his Star Wars movies of scenes mimicking previous Star Wars scenes.
Yeah.
Like, and again, we can start discussing this when we open our spoiler bin. Scenes, like, there were several scenes I was like, wow, this is like this scene from a different movie. And like the way this plays out is like this moment and whatever. Even straight lines said by characters were direct quotes from previous movies.
Mm-hmm.
Just copy pasted, and which wasn't lazy. It was intentional, but is a different approach than we see in other films.
Yeah, and I think again with what he was given, he did the best he could, and I had to go into this movie with my mind turned off. I already know. I first of all went into the movie. Sounds bad, with low expectations. Sorry, JJ.
No, I was.
I was kind of like so about it, and it's not that I don't love Star Wars, and not that I wasn't excited about the movie. It's just like going into episode 7, I was a giddy little child. Going into episode 8, I was a giddy little child, and then I walked out after Rian Johnson basically took my popcorn and dumped it on the floor, and then
grow up.
This is more I remember the one review I read about 8 was like it's less Star Wars as you've ever seen it, and more Star Wars as you've never felt it, and I was like, so it's not Star Wars. Gotcha. So anyway, I'm not gonna rip on Rian Johnson the whole entire podcast as I do. I do respect him, but it's just like I went in with kind of some low expectations, not knowing what I was getting into, because the reviews have been they've been very prequel-esque reviews.
What's fascinating to me about the reviews is that the people that liked it and don't like it, while you can argue certain trends and tendencies, it's not the same line as people that liked and didn't like The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating to me. I still can't completely figure out why.
It's because the Star Wars fan base is weird, and those who review it are even weirder. And
it is.
And like that, it's always going to be that way. Nobody's always going to be pleased with one movie. Nobody's ever going to go, we all like this at the same time. I mean, that's never ever going to be a thing.
No.
But I went in with low expectations, and The Mandalorian kind of killed any other hype for anything else Star Wars that will ever be made again, because it's so great. Good.
Oh yeah.
So. And you'll probably see that review on here as well.
Absolutely.
But I kind of just went in like, you know what? I just want to sit down and I want to have a good time. And I turned off that part of my brain that went, that's not right. And I had a great time. I really enjoyed the movie. It was quite a ride, and I thought it was great. I really, really enjoyed myself. As far as enjoyment level, this trumped all of the movies that have been made since Disney's acquisition of Star Wars, except Solo. Solo is still my top.
I agree there.
Solo is still my top movie, but this one beats out Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi. I really, really had a great time in that theater, and I really think, and I'm glad I did, and I really think this is a movie you have to turn your brain off for. Because, and what I said earlier about its speed helping it is because every time you go to say, whoa, that doesn't make...
Why would you do that?
Something else big has already been happening for 2 minutes. You don't have time to stop and think. Mm-hmm. You are like, okay, but maybe I can. Okay, I'll sit down. Sorry,
accept and move on.
Just keep watching. Keep your eyes on the screen. Don't ask questions. Try to ask questions that come by. Duct tape your mouth and pin your eyelids up.
We're going Stanley Kubrick here.
Very much so. But that's my point though. Its speed helps it because it doesn't give you enough time to question. And obviously, until the movie's over, there's a lot of questions I have.
Yes,
but it does not. It really it did a good job being what it was, which was basically the climax of a 9-film load of movie.
And this is where
series, and then it also does a these crumbs left over from 8. Let's sweep that under the rug real quick, so our house is presentable for all of those people wanting to conclude the Skywalker saga.
And this is where it's very interesting to me.
Those are my thoughts.
Yes, it's where for me, like so far as enjoyment, that kind of thing, I would put 7. I would consider a better film. Enjoyment levels, I almost would need to it's hard to place it. Initial viewing, I enjoyed this more.
Yeah.
Over time, I think I will enjoy 7 more. 8 is its own little category we just put to the side. I feel like you're very right in saying that he took the approach of sweeping the breadcrumbs of 8 under the rug.
But it was like
it's
like,
interesting because
it wasn't before the guests arrived though. The guests opened the door.
The guests were opening the door,
and then he just closed it and he dropped the rug and he was like, "Welcome."
Right. What's fascinating to me is that it almost felt, and I really actually believe this, it felt like 2 movies shoved into one.
Absolutely.
And I mean that both figuratively and I kind of mean it literally. I really question if JJ, whatever interviews say or not, I feel like he had some ideas he wanted to do for 3 movies and he then found out or figured out, Disney said, you're not doing all 3 movies. And then when he got the last movie, he had to take those ideas and put them into one movie.
Because really, if you took 8 out of this equation, the only thing that's missing is the death of Luke Skywalker.
Death of Luke Skywalker,
They
reference other things, but that's really the biggest. The death of Skywalker, death of Snoke. Which I think Snoke was already in the plans to die, from what I would say here.
As far as we know, after 7, we don't know what the original plans were.
There were either no plan. I think there was no plan across the board, but JJ had ideas.
And that's the problem with all of it. There was no plan across the board. This trilogy could have been so much better and so much more uniform if everybody. It was like it was like a piece of like a cupcake, and everybody just the Star Wars cupcake. Everybody not only threw their ingredients in, but everybody just took a bite. Everybody just took a bite and passed it around, so it looked like this deformed, weird, like that.
It looked like Snoke.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, like it.
Oh my god!
It's just been. It was
Disney's Palpatine, and all their movies are just the Snokes in the tank. I'm not cynical.
Spoilers. There's a vat of Snokes.
There's a vat. It's the first 5 minutes. It's fine.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we can start probably breaching to spoiler territory.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say though we both enjoyed our experience in the theater, even though thinking back at it now, it does have a lot of issues and a lot of what. Hold up.
Yes.
But again, as far as a theater experience, it's probably one of the funner movies.
Yes.
Probably one of the most entertaining movies.
Speaking of fun, entertaining, and interesting moments, I want to go ahead and start listing off some of mine. Now we're getting into talking about the contents. Honestly, probably one of the biggest highlights for me, just hands down, is Anthony Daniels as C-3PO.
Yes.
As the only person to have been from. I'm right? Am I right in saying that? He's the only character to be Well, I guess R2-D2 has a person that did him, but
the only 2 characters who have been in every single Skywalker saga movie are R2-D2 and C-3PO. The only actor to have done all 9 of them is Anthony Daniels.
Yeah,
and John Williams once again did the score, but that's the point.
But Anthony I love that JJ gave him such a strong scenes.
Really haven't seen a part like that for him. As much dialogue and as much personality, as much C-3PO-ness from him since maybe Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
I mean the thing was C-3PO always played, not always, but and he definitely does in this movie. He plays a bit of a humor character, a comedy character, but bringing in this strong feeling of familiarity that you have with him.
Yeah.
And giving him emotional weight was so good. And even though I personally, I was like, look, he's gonna get his memories back. He's gonna whatever with by whatever. I that is something I fault JJ with, is that he's very bad at committing to anything. He's very bad at committing to killing something.
Ouch.
He is. He just is.
JJ sucks at commitment.
Chewbacca's like, he does.
No.
But
well, because
but even knowing that, knowing what 3PO's thought process, seeing these people around him, all that, and just hearing again, Anthony Daniels is the real winner here of just a wonderful performance of taking in what's around him, making a decision that and so on when he had to decide whether to get wiped or not. And then even beyond that, his performance as a wiped C-3PO, there are little things that are really interesting. His arms, he holds them looser when he's wiped. He holds them lower down.
Didn't notice
Straight up, yeah. He doesn't, like, you know how he always has this kind of like, kind of hold? They're more down here most of the time when he's wiped. He's like much more, I hate to say casual looking, but he's not quite as fully personalitied because he's fully wiped.
I mean, like the last time he was wiped was
end of 3.
The end of episode 3 when he was given to Captain Antilles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I guess like over time, he's just kind of, it's almost like learning how to walk again and learning, he had all of these.
He had all the programming.
He had all of the mannerisms that he had just, as a intelligent droid, he had all these mannerisms as almost a human.
Mm-hmm.
Ignoring the fact that Anthony Daniels is on the inside, he is almost a human, probably the most human droid in Star Wars. And it's kind of like when he's wiped, he's back to like factory mode.
He's a little bit more.
It's like resetting your iPhone. Like
right, he has his personality, but it's not quite as developed.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I will say, my favorite. You're talking about humor. My favorite moment was what's the guy's name? I want to say Baba Ganoush, but that's food.
Baba Ganoush. Babu Frick.
Babu Frick. Yeah, it's like they reference Babu Frick. It's like, oh, my oldest friend.
yeah, my oldest friend.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, no, there's so many good parts in that movie with him in it, and he's definitely a great character. And
so that was one highlight for me.
Yeah, I would say a highlight for me was in the film. One of the things I liked the most was something that 8 did not do. Mm-hmm. Seeing the whole crew, the whole main crew, get on the Millennium Falcon. Seeing Poe and Finn back together with Rey, with Chewbacca, with BB-8,
actually having everybody interacting with each other.
It felt very much like Endor in Return of the Jedi. Everybody's there together. Everybody's on the same mission. And like 8 just took everybody and went.
Right, everybody went different directions. I mean, we didn't even have Rey meet Poe until the end of 8.
Yeah, and that's what.
And these are main characters.
Yeah, and also too, we had such a good dynamic developed in Force Awakens between Poe and Finn. Mm-hmm. Probably the most brotherly.
He didn't want, or Poe and Finn. Sorry, I thought you were saying Poe and Rey. Yes, Poe and Finn.
Poe and Finn, yeah. Yes. The most brotherly relationship in Star Wars that we've seen, other than like a Jedi and their Padawan. That's more of a father and son kind of thing. Right. So, really, a good relationship we don't see a lot of in Star Wars. And in 8,
they trust each other, and that's about it.
In 8, it's kind of just like Poe just kind of stays on the ship complaining about Holdo because she's an idiot, and then, Finn goes with Rose. Mm-hmm. But then, so I love, again, I was about to get into the things I didn't like. But I loved all of them work together. Just bring the main crew back together. Bring all of the characters that not only we've loved for a long time, Chewbacca. I think R2 stayed with Leia, but Chewbacca and C-3PO, bring the characters together that we've learned to love. Rey, Finn, Poe, and BB-8. Mm-hmm. bring them together, you've got the main crew, and I loved it. I'm so glad they did that because I didn't want it to be like one person here, one person there, one person here. Now tie all of that together.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
Yeah.
Okay? Bring them all together because, you know, they're all like, they all have this camaraderie and this, I don't know, they all look good together.
Yes, they were designed to be, I think in 7 when he made the characters, they were designed to bond together.
Absolutely.
And they didn't get to do that in 8. They got to do it in 9. It's wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Something else I think talking about bonding together, another one of my highlights was the conclusion was the continuation of Ben and Rey's arcs. And not even the arcs, but we got the saber fight finally. We got more than one, really. We got that wonderful. I loved the saber fight when it's projection, and they were fighting each other, and there was like real things connecting through, and there was all that
with Darth Vader's helmet.
Yeah, with Darth Vader's helmet dropping between. But like that was a really well done, unique take, and it had a lot of great fighting.
Really never seen that.
No, yeah, really fresh take on it, and then. And this is a great example to me of what I was talking about where JJ pulls from previous movies. The fight between Rey and Ben is, if you think, it was interesting to me because it felt very much like the other color palette of Anakin and Obi-Wan in 3. Think about how the things
when they're on
Mustafar. No, in 3. And when they're on Mustafar,
okay.
How they're fighting the lava and there's all their things are crashing and they're running from place to place. No, it felt like a sequel trilogy fight, not a prequel fight. But the way that the waves and the torrential downpour and all that affected them as its own factor, and they were having to jump from place to place, and the way it crashed behind them at moments, it was like a blue color palette of a similar idea, which I think worked really well.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a fantastic way for them to finally get that fight, and also a great way to end it with Carrie Fisher having the moment there and having her the one thing to have the strength to do, just whisper someone's name. Yeah. You weren't as into that?
I wasn't.
No?
I wasn't.
No.
If we want to start getting into things...
No. Say what you... disagree with me.
No, it's good. I am. No.
Yeah.
So, my whole thing was, like... So, I guess I'll just start from where we just were with the Leia thing. They had that scene. Really pretty cool scene of, young Leia and young Luke, like... fighting with lightsabers and stuff. And
that was a little bit, yeah.
So there was like, they did that, and I'm thinking like, Leia had already died by that point.
Yes, they did have that limitation.
So, I just was like, if she seems like pretty powerful, and I know she's not like Luke powerful, but like, it's like, why? My question is, if she can do all that, if she can fly back into a ship from space after getting,
to be fair,
after getting shot into space by the script of Episode 8, like, can't she? Is that really?
Well, I think the thing is, we have established that in 8 that any sort of projection or anything like that is extremely draining. That's why Luke died from what he did.
But he actually,
and he did a lot more.
He did do a lot more, and so that was my question. Was like, and I don't know if they would have handled her death any other way, but she just goes, Ben. Right, and like that's it. And I'm just like,
I think the difference
difference
I think is we also see while she trained a little bit, it was specifically mentioned that she did not continue her training because she saw that things would go poorly, essentially. So she stopped training when she was young, back before she had any kids or anything.
Yeah.
So she stopped training. We also know that she in 8, when she does, like, she has the capability from the Force, she also went into a coma for the rest of the movie when she had that one moment. So like, she's clearly not got the fortitude as
she's
someone.
probably
so like, I think it's fair that would be.
Yeah, it was just kind of a weird moment for me.
I can see that.
Because it was like, and then that was it. And I was just like, I mean, is that all we could have done?
Mm-hmm.
But, okay.
I can see it giving it a little bit more weight as like maybe her putting her hand on her shoulder or something. I don't know.
If anything, she could have helped Rey in her like battle with the Emperor when Rey calls on all the Jedi. She could have
been there too.
She could have helped her, and that could have, as the only Jedi being alive that was helping her at that point, she could have, maybe that would have taken it all out of her, and I feel like that would have been a more ceremonious way
I see what you're saying.
to do it. But that was just one thing. Just going from where we were, and another thing really bothered me. There's this thing called like. There's this thing, people say like, oh, I'm OCD, and you're not really OCD, you just don't like the way something looks. It's when like a stack of books is not perfectly lined up, and there's one book that's like, like that, and it's not, you have to go fix it. There's a line in this movie.
Okay.
They are sinking in that sand field.
Yes.
And right before
Poe
and Finn, Rey and Finn, they're not gay. Rey and Finn, right before
you're like,
Rey, I corrected myself mid-sentence. Rey and Finn, right before they go under, Finn goes, Rey, I never told you, and that's it. And then they pop out below the sand field into this cave, and
it gets referenced.
Rey's like, what did you want to tell me? He was like, oh, it's not important right now.
Right.
And apparently,
he keeps putting it off.
Apparently, it wasn't important for the rest of the movie because this was not revisited.
No.
I thought it was going to be there. I thought it was going to be there at the end when they saw each other, and he was like, I meant to tell you this.
Right.
And I don't care. I don't care if it's I love you, I hate you, I stole your chewing gum, anything. What the frick were you going to tell her? That bothered me so much, and I was waiting for that. And so I don't know if literally they might have just forgot.
I feel like what happened there, I don't think they forgot. I think it was meant, I think the heavy implication was some sort of I love you, that kind of thing. They have that kind of connection. I think the point of what we see in there, and that they develop a 9 with Rey, is that, he has this bond, he's trying to pull her, he represents this kind of light side, whatever. And on the alternative, you have like the Emperor claiming, she says, everybody's claiming to know who I am, and Kylo kind of does a similar thing. But what we see is, as this whole dynamic of the dyad and the Force, whatever, is that the only two individuals that really understand the whole thing is her and Ben, with how they are, which was an interesting way, which, just to go to right now, just flat out, not how it was used, anything like that. How did you feel about Rey Palpatine?
It made sense. There was nothing that really I was like, well, this is out of order, and this doesn't make any sense. I was really like, when I heard it, I was like, I'm okay with this. I was actually like okay with it, and I thought it was a really cool idea. And I thought it, again, like it all kind of added up and made sense, and I feel like we could have deduced it anyway. I pretty much knew from the moment she used Force lightning on that ship. I was like, Rey Dooku.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so psyched. It's like, who's that? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, I was just kidding. Rey Grievous. No. Rey Maul. We could go on, but
Rey Grievous. She just got just extra arms.
She just grows 2 extra arms outside of her body. So, but I was actually okay with that, and
I'm very mixed. I feel like, again, if we had a dedicated vision over the 3 movies and hadn't had a different director step in for the middle movie, I think it would have worked a lot better. And this is again where I kind of blame the middle movie for not opening things the way that it was clearly going to go.
It did escalate very quickly.
And not even going, but not leaving a place for the final movie to go with it. Because 7 clearly wanted to make this a trend. a thing that tied around.
It went from her parents being a mystery to her parents being just really.
Which I want to interject. I don't have a problem with that as a concept. I liked that idea. The problem I had is that it wasn't something that played well with what was my problem with The Last Jedi in general is that it doesn't play well with everything else. I can appreciate a lot of the ideas and even like some of the ideas.
Exactly. If her parents just would have stayed a mystery throughout 8, it would have been better. But because we went from her parents being a complete mystery to being people who traded her for drinking money to the son and daughter-in-law of the most powerful man in the galaxy. Like, that's a quick little. That's like a. Oh yeah. Whoa! Like, that's a big step.
Right,
like,
and that was what was the kind of the mix for me was. This is again the downside of it being so fast. It felt very like, okay, JJ's just like, no, I wanted her to be this. Not there was no explanation for the change. It was just like, oh hey, what they told you before, psych. Yeah,
because
she's a Palpatine.
Because even Ben tells her.
Right, it's very clear, hey, I saw who your parents were.
And they traded you for drinking money and traded you and you're just...
Right, and so it very obviously, as soon as Palpatine was like, you were wrong. It was not, they were not nobodies. And
so, but it's just, it's a complete turnaround because he's actually like, actually, when I told you I saw who your parents were, I actually knew it the whole time and I psyched you out. And let's fight. And I was just, that's like, so that was kind of handled really weird.
And so it was handled weird. That being said, I like the reason JJ did it works very well. I liked the dyad dynamic. I liked how they did that. I liked how it took this idea of the power, the not balance. I mean, it is kind of the balance and the force of the two being together and whatever.
I like how she didn't know her last name for almost 20 years and she forgot it. You know, I remember, I mean, when I was 4...
to be fair, she probably never got told her last name.
Maybe.
I would suspect. I don't think that they would say, hey, by the way, you're the granddaughter of this
I think even if
imperial
they told,
senator that turned
even if they told her, like, evil. Hey, your last name is Palpatine, like...
When she was 2, she might not.
And I guess I know Star Wars does not work the same way America works, but when I was 4, I knew my last name was Collins, and I would still remember that to this day, despite what my parents,
I think, given
anything would have done. So, like,
given that they were specifically running away from everything involving him, it would make sense that they would never tell her. Again, what's more, the weaker sections to that of me was the idea that. One, Senator Palpatine had a child. Don't want to think about that.
During his time as the Emperor, if we look...
Right, timeline-wise, like, I'm confused.
After the crinkliness...
Exactly.
After the...
I'm very confused.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. Second thing is the pure... the non-importance it places on this middle generation of like, yeah, they hid and eventually died. Like, I feel like since he was doing this as a setup to make it this family opposed to this family instead of this person opposed to this family, it felt very weird to kind of skip a generation where the other didn't. And so I feel like that could have been handled differently. My personal thoughts, I was not surprised, but my thought process was not as a family. I saw Rey as a creation similar to Snoke, but complete and very much. The idea of the Skywalkers to me has always been this idea of a creation that happened. I almost saw Rey as like something that Sidious created to be whatever. He did through a very much more natural method than what I was thinking.
I think it, that's not Sith alchemy, that's just baby making.
That's just baby making, not Sith alchemy, exactly.
But my thing is, I would have been happier if they'd have just left it open. Who are Rey's parents? We'll never know. But she's made her way in a galaxy where she didn't belong.
Right.
And there we go. And then we can speculate afterwards and have those conversations after 9, like... oh, who is she? Who could she be? We still don't know. Who, what? And now every time I go back and watch the prequels, I'm going to see Palpatine and go, oh, his granddaughter's going to kill him in 60 years. So, I mean,
more than 60 years.
Well, like 60 or 70 years, his granddaughter's literally going to kill him, and that's who she is. And so that kind of, I know it doesn't...
It did bring an end to things.
Like, it did conclude everything, but can you not just leave us with that cool little, like, ooh, I wonder who she was. Maybe she was nobody. Maybe she was just traded for drunk money, because that's something I actually ended up liking about 8. But instead, they just went and...
And that's what I was saying, is that, like, I liked where 8... I was fine with that thing about 8, about her being nobody.
You really are freaking nobody. And then they're like, wait, you're actually somebody by name.
And that's that's where my problem was, is that it wasn't just...
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing, because there's... Again, this was something I had trouble actually processing how I felt about it, because I know... I already could see how other people were thinking about it as soon as it happened. My brain was like, oh, I know that people that liked The Last Jedi are not going to like this. And people that, in general, people that didn't like how The Last Jedi did whatever, are going to like this.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way it was done, but that's partially on 8, partially on 9.
Yeah, and that's just... And that's kind of the big.
But once it happened, I liked how they took it from there.
They did well with it once they introduced it, so it kind of made sense. And going back real quick to the whole Rey, I have something to tell you. My main problem with that was like, why bring it up if you're not going to conclude it? Why go? Hey, Rey, I have something to tell you, which leaves us with like, what is he going to tell her? And again, he doesn't tell her anything.
He doesn't get.
They left it out, and so it's like.
The reason I think that it got left
you can't
out,
just introduce something like that and not resolve it. That's the problem with episode 8. It introduces so much without resolving what came before it. And so that was my problem with that line. It's like, it's the worst line of the movie, I really think, because one, they really, after, and I'm expanding on this real quick if that's okay, but like, man, in 7, they have chemistry.
Yes.
Finn and Rey.
Yes.
In 8, they have no chemistry because Rey has gone looking for
There
Luke
literally
Skywalker.
is no chance.
And there's like all of a sudden chemistry between Rose and Finn. And then in 9,
very false.
In 9, they just kind of pass each other. And at the end, Rose T-bones Finn in those little like sand speeders,
right?
And then kisses him after saying, "We save what we love." That's not how you win wars at all, by the way. But like. Then in episode 9, there's no chemistry between those two characters.
And that was, again,
Rose is like, hey,
so
and Finn's like, hey. And then it just goes the other way.
And that was what was so funny to me, is that 9, it made the decision to just essentially be back. Like, Abrams made the decision to just put the ball fully into his court again and just work with... Like,
he kicked Rian Johnson out of the stadium. He didn't just take the ball in his court.
And that is something that I find a fascinating decision, a slightly amusing decision, because I think it kind of shows how Rian kind of overstepped himself. But I think, and this is where I'm going to kind of lead with this, is that 9 could have been, given the enormity of what it was finishing, I wish it was more polished, and I wish it had more self-sustain to it, because I wish it had more power by itself. I think it is a very fitting end for a saga that has had so many ups and downs. I think that it is a very fitting and a very illustrative end for the saga.
What did you think of, by the way, which is one thing before we conclude, what did you think of the whole Rey and Kylo kiss?
So, I think that it made complete narrative sense once the way things were established. I think that as it was being, I think especially like we had seen, 7 they're enemies, or 8 we see they have a connection. Kylo is very not somebody you want to kiss. I mean, he's swole, but his personality is, not personality. He's a bad person. I think we see, as they did the redemption arc, we see what Rey was seeing in him, we see that kind of thing. And I think the more important thing is we see him change, we see her experience his own weaknesses, and like you see them swap. I liked that we got to see her have the actual struggles with the dark side, and have like, I loved the lightning moment. I loved where like they're both, again, similar to 8. I give, so you see something I give 8 props for is like the lightsaber as they're both fighting for it and it breaks. We see them in this same, we have the exact, we are evenly matched.
So you think the ship's
overpowered.
You think the ship's gonna break in half, and really she lightning.
Right. It's like it's the same moment of like their struggle, and then she wins by tapping into that he didn't tap into.
Another part I didn't like about the film. But
interesting.
Well, no. I like that part. I like how they went, oh, you thought Chewie was on this ship?
Oh, yeah, that was stupid.
Chewie's on
and that's
this
what I'm talking about with JJ.
JJ
like, sucks at commitment. That's what I was like,
why?
I knew it was going to happen.
See the other, and I had a feeling, but I was just like...
It was super lame. It was a super cool... It was such a cop-out.
A cool moment, and then a dumb conclusion to the cool
moment.
It was because it could have just been like, what if the ship lands and somehow... Even if the ship lands and maybe Chewie gets out before it blows up.
Right.
And she goes back to the Falcon. She's like, I could have killed Chewie. Oh, no. But instead it's like, I killed Chewie. And then literally the next frame is him going, oh,
and that's where I think it was a cop-out, is that if they had that happen, and then, you know what? Not mention that Chewie was alive until Rey felt his presence on that Star Destroyer. I would have been cool with that. Because that would have been like a... Okay, we're acting like he's dead.
Yeah.
Like they think he is. Oh, hey, no, this actually, you feel his presence, you get some sort of explanation that. But the fact that you got this, like, instant, and then, like you said, literally next frame, it's like, no, don't worry, kids, he's fine.
Don't worry, we got him here in a Star Destroyer. He survived. And
that I agree there. But the moment, so far as they're concerned, her and Kylo's been.
Absolutely.
I loved this. We are in even again, and she taps into the dark, and she wins.
They do have the most chemistry of either ones, but I feel like it would have just better if he just brings her back to life and dies, and then in a very... I'm sorry, and it sounds cheesy, in a very Romeo and Juliet-esque way, she wakes up, finds him dead.
Right.
And then she transfers powers, and then she dies, and then he transfers powers, and then he dies.
Okay, I thought about that. Okay, wait. So he gave her some of his power. What if she tried to give him some of his power, and then it's like...
And then they keep switching and dying and switching and dying.
It's like, Palpatine said that he gained life from the two of them getting drained out. Why can't they just gain life off each other? Is this an infinite loop? What's going on here? Like, can they just build infinite life? Can they just make... force energy, like
that would have been so funny. I thought in the theater. I thought about it, I was like, well, now what if it is a yeah, exactly.
Oh man. But to go back, I think that I saw the kiss coming. I was like, okay, the way they're holding their faces, they're going for it. And I was like, this. I think it would have been better if they had just edged it and didn't actually commit to it. If they had like a deep moment and then he passes or whatever.
And then right before he dies, he says, "I don't like sand." And
right.
Passes
exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's a Skywalker thing.
It's in my blood.
It's in my blood. We don't like sand. I can never join you on Jakku.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We have no future together. You like sand.
Right. But it is not the worst thing that it happened.
Yeah. No.
And I think that one of the downsides it has is that your previous problem of Finn not saying what his thing was, I think was in direct correlation to the fact that JJ wanted to commit to the idea that these two people had such a strong connection of heart. It was romantic in nature.
Yeah.
And I don't think you had to commit to that. I think it worked, but you didn't have to commit to that. And if you hadn't committed to that, it could have allowed for Finn to, at the end of the movie, do some sort of confession and not even have her be like, oh, I love you too, but to not immediately clash with what just happened.
Yeah.
So I think that it was not ideal, but worked, especially as that sort of idea of the merging of the two into one.
Yeah, and I saw it, and I wasn't I'm just kind of iffy about it. I thought it was okay because I was just kind of like, you know what, this is a movie. I need to think about that. That's a movie trope right there.
Exactly.
So of course that's going to happen, but yeah. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that, and we're going on 45 minutes here, and our battery's running low. So what I mean, like, I think overall, definitely, as we started out saying in this film, it's really a movie where you need to just go in and want to enjoy this movie as a Star Wars film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much a thrill ride from beginning to end. If you turn off your brain and don't think like we did for the last 30 minutes. Right.
It's easy to pick apart, but it's not as strong of a negative as it sounds.
It's easy to pick apart, but that's, as you said, it's not going to hinder my experience of the movie like my viewing of 8 sometimes does. I will forever probably love this movie as a Star Wars movie because it's just so much fun from beginning to end.
And I think I could point out a design difference that makes me nitpick at 8 but not do it as much as 9.
Mm-hmm.
8 begs to be nitpicked and everything about it says take me seriously. I'm trying to make this point. I'm trying to do this thing. So when it does anything wrong, you want to just point it out, pick it up, say, hey, you told me to be like this.
But we freed the space horses and left the slave children to die.
Right? Conversely, though, I don't want to lean on that too much.
Yeah.
I want to compare that to 9,
Who uses the Force,
which is very it says, hey, we're doing this. You know what? Don't worry about it. We're just going to do it. And you can be like that, but that's not what we're trying to be like in this movie. Although, okay, humor moment. I did, again, it amused me how much they kind of brushed up some things in 8, like, why not just do a holdo maneuver? Oh, that was 1 in a million. Such a throwaway line. Such a, hey, we don't know how this worked either line. But all that to say, my kind of concluding thoughts on it, 9 is a fun end to the franchise. I think, again, the idea that it is a very illustrative end of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Not the franchise, the saga. The saga has had a lot of ups and downs. It is some very strong moments. At the end of the day, though, Star Wars is meant to be enjoyed.
Yes.
It is meant to just happen, and it started off as a story about a teenage kid that wanted to spend some time with his friends in Tashi Station that ends up...
Pick up some power converters.
Right, pick up some power converters, and he ends up destroying the big spaceship that has a laser that goes boom boom and kills a planet. Like,
he said that nobody
fun.
could kill a Jedi, he kills them all.
Right, like, it's meant to just be it's meant to be this fun adventure saga.
Yeah.
And 9 concluded as a fun adventure that had extreme stakes. Again, one more throwaway comment. Palpatine was the scariest thing you've ever seen in 9. That intro was legit ooh.
Yeah, it was.
Creepy.
It was very
good job, Ian McDiarmid. Good job, makeup team.
We love you.
But it was meant, and it concluded in the same way. It concluded with a lot of faults, but with a lot of strengths.
Yeah.
And I think that's how there is no more fitting way for it to end.
Absolutely. And so, it's really amazing to be here at the conclusion of the Skywalker saga. I think it says the last Star Wars movie we're going to see for a good while. But I'm looking forward to things like Mandalorian.
The Palpatine saga coming in 2022.
Saga, yeah. Yeah. Prepare to have some sort of scene about him making love and then finally having...
Please no. Please no. Never. I love you, Ian McDiarmid. You're a beautiful person. We can do that.
I am the shit. Anyway.
Unlimited
Oh my gosh. But probably the last Star Wars movie we're going to see in a while, but definitely looking forward to things like the Disney Plus Star Wars TV shows, Mandalorian Season 2, fall 2020. Expect to see Kenobi sometime in 2021, and Andor, Cassian Andor, and the K2SO show probably sometime around the same time as Kenobi. So we have a lot to look forward to, but for now, that has been the Skywalker saga.
Yeah. What a day to live in.
Right?
Well, y'all, we look forward to seeing y'all soon. We will have a Mandalorian episode we film as well.
Absolutely.
We have other things in the works that we'll probably just take a separate update video on in general. And yeah, keep informed, keep tuned, stay beautiful. We'll see you soon.
Peace.